It's the hour no one talks about, but almost everyone has felt. The moment when the world seems to hold its breath. No traffic outside, no buzzing phones, no footsteps in the hallway, only silence, pure, heavy, strange. Yet in that stillness, something stirs. Between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., time doesn't feel normal. Dreams intensify, the atmosphere shifts, and many awaken suddenly, inexplicably, with racing hearts and eyes wide open. You may think it's just random, just a bad dream, just insomnia, but you're not imagining it. For thousands of years across cultures and continents, this mysterious hour has been whispered about in sacred texts, ancient rituals, and esoteric teachings. The Celts called it the spirit crossing. Mystics call it the divine hour. Witches and healers? They know it as the time when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest. What veil? The one that separates the seen from the unseen, the living from the departed, the physical from the energetic. You from your soul's other layers. Some say this hour opens gateways, others say it's when spirits walk. Still others believe your higher self uses this time to whisper truths that the daylight drowns out. So why do you wake up at this hour? What's really happening behind the stillness? Tonight, we go deeper. We explore the forgotten wisdom of the dark hour. And we ask the question most people are too afraid to ask aloud. What or who is trying to reach you between 3 and 4 a.m.? What is the veil? To understand what happens at 3 a.m., we first need to understand the veil. In spiritual teachings, the veil is not just a metaphor, it's a field, a metaphysical boundary, a shimmering membrane that separates two distinct worlds. The world you can see and the world that's always there but hidden. It divides the material from the immaterial, the waking from the dreaming, the finite from the eternal. And that veil? It's not solid, it moves. It breathes. For the average person, the veil is thick, like a locked door between this life and what lies beyond. But for spiritual seekers, sensitives, the dying or the dreaming, that door sometimes cracks open. Throughout history, cultures have described this in different ways. The Egyptians believed in layers of reality, interconnected planes where spirits journeyed after death, often guided by gods like Anubis through veils of transformation. The Celts saw Samhain not as a Halloween myth, but as the time when the veil lifted and ancestors could pass through. In Vedic philosophy, the Maya or illusion of the world was seen as a veil over true consciousness. Meditation, they said, could pierce it. But no matter the culture, the message is always the same. There is more than this, and something guards the line between here and there. So what happens when the veil thins? It's not just symbolic, it's energetic, it's spiritual physics. Between 3 and 4 a.m., Earth's energetic frequency dips. There's less noise, electrical, emotional, environmental. Your brain transitions into slower wave states like theta, the same state used in deep meditation, trance, and healing. And without all the chaos of daytime, your subtle senses turn on. Clairvoyance, clairaudience, the pull of intuition. You're no longer fully anchored in the physical, and that is when the veil begins to ripple. This thinning is why dreams feel more vivid. Why you may wake with a start, unsure why your heart is pounding. It's why spiritual practitioners choose this hour for deep prayer, ritual, or contact with guides. Because the silence of the world reveals the whispers of the unseen. The veil is not a place, it's a threshold. And between 3 and 4 a.m., you are standing right at its edge. The witching hour? It's been whispered about in taverns, carved into ancient wood, and passed down through centuries. Beware the witching hour. The term itself, witching hour, first appeared in 1775. But the belief? That's far older than calendars, older than clocks. In European folklore, 3 a.m. was thought to be the peak hour for witches, spirits, and demons to rise. A time when the boundary between our world and theirs blurs. Why 3 a.m.? Because it was said to be the opposite of divinity. In Catholic belief, 3 p.m. is the sacred hour when Christ died. Light triumphed over darkness. And so, 3 a.m. was seen as a mocking inversion, a moment when divine forces sleep and darker entities stir. But this isn't just about fear. Many cultures viewed the hour not as cursed, but charged. In ancient Kemet, what we now call Egypt, 3 a.m. was known as an hour of astral alignment. It was when priests would awaken for night rituals, meditations, and communications with the Duat, the underworld realm of souls and gods. In Hindu mysticism, the time between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. is called Brahma Muhurta, the creator's hour. It's believed to be the most spiritually potent part of the night, a time when your mind is clearest, your soul most connected, and the universe listening. Yogis rise at this time to chant, to meditate, to align. So whether feared or revered, there's one truth that unites them all. Something stirs between 3 and 4 a.m. And it's not just superstition. The witching hour is not simply a relic of the past. It's alive in every jolt that wakes you at 3:11 a.m., every dream that feels too real, every chill you feel while lying awake in the stillness, because myths often hide deeper truths. And this one may be more real than we were ever meant to know. Science, sleep, and circadian rhythms. Before we go further into the shadows, let's shift lenses from the spiritual to the scientific. Your body is a marvel of cycles. One of the most powerful of these is your circadian rhythm, a 24-hour internal clock that governs everything from your sleep to your hormones to your mood and metabolism. And during the hours between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., something fascinating happens. Your body hits its lowest energetic state in the entire 24-hour cycle. Your core body temperature drops to its lowest point. Your blood pressure dips. Your heart rate slows. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, is at its peak. And your brain? It begins cycling through its deepest REM phases, or briefly wakes up. It's during this window, when your physical defenses are down and consciousness is more fluid, that strange things begin to happen. Even hospitals and medical professionals report it. Studies have shown that mortality rates spike during this window. Heart attacks, for example, are more common in the early morning hours. And psychiatric wards? They often report increased episodes of agitation or lucidity between 3 and 4 a.m. Why? Because your brain and body are between states, not fully awake, not fully asleep. You exist in a twilight zone where the rational mind rests, and the limbic system, your emotional primal brain, takes the wheel. In this altered state, dreams intensify, memories resurface, and in some cases, the barrier between your mind and the unknown begins to dissolve. So what if that bump in the night, that whisper just beyond your hearing, that dream you can't quite shake, wasn't a figment of your imagination, but the result of a mind caught between two worlds? This is where science and mysticism converge. The yogis say it's the hour the soul rises. The priests say it's when spirits walk. And the neuroscientists, they say your body is in its most vulnerable, most open state. Maybe that's why we feel watched. Maybe that's why we wake. Maybe that's why, whether we want to or not, we're pulled towards something else. Stories from the thin hour. We asked people across cultures, across continents, what happens to you between 3 and 4 a.m.? Some were eager to share, others hesitant, but nearly all had something to say. Testimony 1, Marie. I don't know why I kept waking up at exactly 3:13 every night for 7 nights straight. The room always felt different, cold, like someone had just left. And on the last night, I opened my eyes and I saw her. My grandmother. She'd been gone for years. She didn't speak. She just stood in the doorway, smiling. I felt safe, and then she was gone. Is it grief, memory, or something deeper that moves through the veil to reach us? Testimony 2, Malik Jiria. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. It was like I was buried alive. Awake. Something sat on my chest. A shadow. Not human. Not animal. Just dark. I thought I was dying. Then suddenly, like it was never there, it vanished, and I could breathe again. This is no isolated incident. Across cultures, this phenomenon is known. Sleep paralysis. But in ancient lore, it wasn't a disorder. It was a visitation. In Japan, it's called kanashibari, bound by a spirit. In Brazil, pisadera, a crone who walks rooftops and crushes your chest. In Egypt, they speak of jinn. In the West, we call it a nightmare. Testimony 3, Ava, New York. I was dreaming, but I was lucid. I sat at a desk in a room I'd never seen before. There were pages everywhere. My hand was writing, but the words weren't mine. I didn't recognize them. They were old. But when I woke up, I remembered a full poem. It was beautiful. I wrote it down, and to this day, I don't know where it came from. Throughout history, artists, prophets, and mystics have claimed to receive divine inspiration between the hours of 3 and 4 a.m. It's known as a download, a moment where the mind becomes a receiver and something greater broadcasts. These stories are not rare. They are whispered across generations, felt in every culture, and they all converge in one window of time, the thin hour. Between 3 and 4 a.m., Dreams visit, shadows press, voices call, and the veil between worlds breathes. What if what we call imagination is actually memory? What if those we've lost never truly left? And what if, at 3 a.m., the door opens just enough for them to step through? The hour of alignment, spiritual practices. What if waking at 3 a.m. isn't a disruption? What if it's a calling? Across traditions, across centuries, there has always been a sacred understanding. The hours before dawn are not ordinary. They are holy, potent. They are for the soul. Brahma Muhurta, the creator's hour. In Vedic tradition, the time between 30 a.m. and 4:30 a.m. is known as Brahma Muhurta, literally the hour of Brahma, the creator. It's believed that during this time, the mind is at its purest, the air is charged with prana, life force. Your consciousness is closest to source. Great sages, including the Buddha, were said to meditate during this window, not for discipline, but because the energy is different, lighter, thinner, divine. The quiet time of prayer. In Christian mysticism, this time is called Lauds, one of the 8 canonical hours of prayer just before dawn. The Desert Fathers, Christian mystics of the early church, woke in the night not out of obligation, but to meet the divine in the silence. Silence, they believed, was the voice of God. Sufi devotion, Dhikr in darkness. In Sufism, mystics rise before sunrise to engage in Dhikr, the remembrance of the divine through chant and breath. They believe the early morning is when the heart is most open and the ego most silent. To chant at this time is to align with the rhythm of the universe and feel God breathing through you. The science of stillness. From a scientific lens, here's why it works. The world is quiet, distractions are gone, your prefrontal cortex is resting, the thinking mind relaxes. Your pineal gland, linked to spiritual insight, is most active. Melatonin is still high, supporting vivid visualization and trance-like focus. This means your inner world is ripe for spiritual practice, prayer, journaling, chanting, or simply listening. So if you wake between 3 and 4 a.m., don't fear it. It is not random. It may be invitation, not interruption. Instead of scrolling your phone, try sitting still. Instead of fighting sleep, try whispering a prayer. Instead of feeling alone, ask who might be trying to reach you. This hour is a sacred alignment between spirit and body, between you and something greater. You don't need incense or a monastery, you need only presence. Who wakes you up and why? Not every 3 a.m. awakening is random. Sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes you're being called. You feel it, that pull, that inexplicable feeling that something is present just beyond the veil. You're not fully asleep, not quite awake. The room feels different. Who or what is calling? Across spiritual traditions, 3 a.m. is considered a time of visitation. Your ancestors may come through, bringing protection or guidance. Angels may attempt to communicate in dreams or through sudden wakefulness. Your own higher self, the eternal part of you beyond time, may be whispering a truth your waking mind resists. And sometimes it's not a being at all. It's a message, a revelation waiting to unfold if you'll only listen. Signs you're being spiritually awakened. Have you experienced any of these? Waking repeatedly at 3:33 a.m., feeling the urge to write, meditate, or pray in the dark, hearing whispers, names, or familiar voices. Having intense dreams that stop right when you wake up. Experiencing emotional waves or chills for no physical reason. These aren't accidents. They are markers, spiritual breadcrumbs, signaling that something is trying to get your attention. Why 3:33 a.m.? 3:33 is more than a time. It's a spiritual code. In numerology, the number 3 represents creativity, divine communication, and the trinity of mind, body, spirit. Repeated 3 times, 3-3-3 symbolizes alignment with the ascended masters, the enlightened beings that guide spiritual evolution. Seeing 3:33 often means you're on the right path, but you're being nudged to wake up further, to deepen your awareness. So ask yourself, when you wake in the stillness, before grabbing your phone, before going back to sleep, pause, breathe, and ask, who woke me up, and what do they want me to remember? Because between 3 and 4 a.m., you may be the most awake you'll ever be. You don't need to fear the hour, you only need to understand it. Between 3 and 4 a.m., time softens, the veil thins, and the great silence whispers. It's not just about ghosts or myths, it's not about superstition, it's about remembrance. In that still hour, when the world sleeps, your soul awakens. It remembers what your mind forgets, that you are not just a body, Not just dreams and thoughts, but spirit, ancient, eternal, aware. So if you find yourself waking in the night, don't rush back into the noise of dreams. Don't silence the call with distraction. Pause. Breathe. Listen. You're not waking up. You're being awakened. And in that space between moments, between worlds, you may just find the truth you've been searching for. Subscribe to unlock more hidden teachings. Comment below. Have you ever awakened at 3 a.m.? You're not alone, and it may be no accident.